to the founder, Krista Malden. Krista, thank you so much for what you do for mental wellness, and how are you today?
I'm so excited for today. It's crazy.
Oh, I bet. Why don't you share the story why you founded, Community Now magazine, and talk a little bit about the Mental Summit?
For sure. We started Community Now magazine because we saw a disconnect between industry and people. So we wanted to put business, innovation, community, and education together. And within that, we realized mental health is part of everything that we do. So we wanted to make sure that we always brought people together to discuss mental health, to start changing the narrative around it. And I'm so excited that we're in person finally after a year and a half, almost 2 years of not being in person. So this is fabulous.
This is great. We were talking about how many people we've got to meet for the first time in 2 years. So last year's we did kind of a hybrid. We did some interviews.
Yeah.
We did some, and all of it was online, but it is so excited to be back here.
Oh, I'm so excited. And it's so funny because we really have met everybody online for the last year. So people came in from Nanaimo, like Blaze Hunter. And we have some other people in, but I've only met some of these people via Zoom. So then you see them walking by in their masks and you're like, I think that's them. You're like, oh!
Yes, I think that again. I met Tara for the first time and I was like, I think that's Tara. Hey, Tara. Yes. Well, no, and then we've got so many great guests. So it can't be that hard to find so many people in the community willing to give back and help and share their stories.
No, it's remarkable when you start talking to people. You really come together over one topic, right? Mental health and illness and wellness is so big, and everybody wants to change it. We need to look at it differently. We need to treat it differently. And there's so many amazing organizations and individuals giving back to the community that we just like to bring them together so that more people can learn about them. And I mean, we have Men's League down here. We have you. We've got the movie Back Home Again that's showing, and Tara Adams is speaking. We have so many speakers. Today is going to be remarkable.
Well, no, absolutely. And thank you for kicking this off. And speaking of the movie, we're just going to be kind of bringing people in here for the next 20 minutes and talking to them. We'll have Charmaine jump in here and the executive producer. And we'll talk about the Back Home movie.
Yes,
so
Charmaine,
why don't you come jump in? Unmask. Absolutely. We're in a mask-free zone here, right? So why don't you share a little bit about yourself, your passion behind mental wellness, and then we'll talk about the movie.
Sure. I have a background in mental health, actually. Worked for years as a counselor, a social worker, worked in corrections, and have been working in this field for, almost 30 years. I'm showing my age. And I got involved in the Back Home Again movie because I actually lived in Fort McMurray for 16 years. Not at the time of the fires, but was brought back to the community because of the work I do in resilience and recovery, and was working with the school divisions and mental health nonprofits about the mental health issues.
No, for sure. And I was lucky enough to interview Michael, and we shared some of that stuff about so why don't we talk about how the movie came to fruition, how you got involved, and the Red Cross and all the others.
Sure. Well, Michael Mankowski is a born and raised Fort McMurrayite. So he went through the fires, he went through the evacuation. He was actually doing some work for the Red Cross and filmed a couple of hundred people, their testimonials as they returned to the community. And he became really inspired to tell the stories that needed to be told. So as an award-winning screenwriter and director, he started to write a beautiful script that turned into a 30-minute animated, award-winning animated movie. And it's the story of the Fort McMurray wildfires as told by the animals that live in the forest. And you can see some of the animals there.
And what a cast! I mean, you can't see them all of them, but I mean, he put together the who's who of Canada, and some of the other ones like Kim Basinger, Jeremy Renner. I mean, that must have been really cool. The story he told me about how all they wanted to get involved and help, and even how it's going farther than the Fort McMurray fires to the California fires, and it's making a difference all around the world.
It really is. And one of the things we know is that because we are all globally dealing with a pandemic, everybody has been touched or impacted in some way as it relates to their wellness, their mental health, even their physical health. So this movie was created to be a conversation starter to help people talk about stress and wellness and mental health. And I think it's doing just that.
Oh, I think so. And I'm excited to see it today. I think it's just after lunch. I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for coming on and sharing a bit of your story. And now I'm going to bring on Fabian. Fabian, who was on last week. But Fabian just coming on to make sure that, you know, we bring up the sexiness level of this podcast.
Jay, man. Always know to make me blush.
Yeah, we got to bring up our ratings, right?
Oh,
So why don't you? I know Derek was here; he forgot his thing, so we'll give a shot at him for getting your guys' banner. He can't be here, but why don't you guys or you yourself share your mental wellness start and why you founded Men's League?
yeah, man. For me, 2019. Obviously, I'll get more into it in the conference, but a whole year of loss. I'm pretty introspective. I like to think a lot. I'm a deep thinker. I was in constant funerals while going through a divorce, while suffering from panic attacks, and it was a big weight that was on my shoulders, and I realized I couldn't handle it anymore. I thought I was in control of the situation, and then I started thinking, you know, the guys that I've lost in that year, they don't get to wake up and breathe the next day. They don't get to go to a party. They don't get to go to work. They don't get to hug their loved ones. They don't get to talk to anybody. It's finally for them, and I get to still breathe. So what am I doing with my skill set? You know, I love talking to people, so let's use it for something positive. So.
No, I think it's a great initiative in Men's League. I know as a dude, sometimes I'm an idiot. I keep everything inside, like most of us. So, you know, talk a little bit about Men's League and why it's so important for men to be there for men.
Well, I mean, I think men, it's never been cool to talk about stuff, especially stuff that makes you seem weak. And I think that's what the narrative Men's League is trying to change. And in order for us to do it, we got to make that look cool. We got to get a community going. We have to make sure there's special tools so guys can come in at different levels. And that's the only way we're going to make change. So that's really what Men's League is a group of like-minded men that want to become better.
No, and I think that's good. You had your first live summit here about a month ago. I was there. There must have been probably at least 60 guys there, kind of just chilling and talking and sharing stories. I think that was very inspirational, I know, for me.
Yeah, the feedback's been unbelievable. I'll tell you what, man, in this mental world, or the mental space that we're all in that are at this conference, sometimes you think it's not working. You know, sometimes it's hard to get traction. Sometimes you start doubting what you're doing. And then stuff like that happens and you get the feedback, or one guy comes and says, you know what, man, that changed my life. But the feedback we got from that event was so huge for me. Like, I had my first panic attack that I've had since I started Men's League at that event before I was speaking. There was so much pressure on that event for me. But yeah, awesome to see that feedback. I've kept a bunch of the emails just to remind myself of the fight we're doing and why we're doing it. So thank you for coming.
Oh, no, thank you for hosting it, and thank you for sharing a bit of your story right now. And I'm looking forward to you guys being on stage and talking a little bit more about what you're doing, and obviously moving forward. We've had a few meetings, so I'm excited to be part of this growth and the part of the Men's League movement. So thank you for that.
Appreciate you.
Now I'm going to bring on my wife. Hey, she has to take off her mask too. She's never been on the podcast, and our daughters are saying, "How come you never have mom on?" I was like, "Well, she's always working too." So here's her chance to say that we match and we have the same shirts, right? That's You're right. not alone. It's okay not to be okay. Give a shout out to Ty Smith, who this is his brand. He's Crash, and he's doing a lot of work on mental wellness too. So I appreciate everything that you do, Ty, and thank you for that. So we'll have a discussion here. So now, I mean, hopefully she doesn't come and vent and bring out all my bad traits, but you know, here's our chance. You know, our family went through a little bit of a crisis. We're going to share our story to inspire others. So we're going to be talking about, and you know, break down here and Katherine.
I guess, yeah, that's true. I was wondering, I was never on your show before. I was like, I'm going to tell all the secrets. As a wife of 20 years old, so we've been together for so long. But in all seriousness, for myself, I went through some incredible challenges, obviously, in 2020, that resulted in me being in the hospital once or twice, and had been diagnosed with unspecified psychosis. And during the time, unfortunately, something with psychosis is that you don't know if you're not well. But I really talking about panic attacks, hearing about that. That maybe it's probably a big thing of maybe realizing what's wrong, because I was having these incredibly aggressive panic attacks, such as I was in the hospital and everything. There was a lot of other things too that were happening for me. So it was a struggle, and in terms of what I had. And then after the fact, it was a long recovery for us as well, for me to get back and members or friends, community sources, and something that we want to make sure that you know that you're not alone, because you do need help. You need to reach out.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
No, absolutely. Well, we'll get into talking about it a little bit more, but if I could give my wife some airtime, I get her on the drive home. So that definitely had to happen.
First time.
First time everything. How you doing? Good. Yeah, we are live right now.
Oh, nice.
That's a joy of live. You just come in here. I didn't know how it would work, so we're going in. So again, Kath, thanks for coming on, and now you can tell the girls that we're here. And Ty, why don't you come jump in here?
Yeah.
We'll kind of have a chat with you. Okay, we got Ty here. Ty McKinney, they're founding an app, the 8-Bit Cortex. So I know you're a big, obviously, mental wellness person, and we've been around. We've got to know each other over the last couple of years. We've seen each other at summits and networking events. So why don't you kind of fill us in on what you're doing with your career and your app?
Yeah, so I was originally trained as a scientist, but the app that my company's building, we're trying to gamify mental wellness tracking, and then based on the data that we're collecting, we're going to be making burnout prediction algorithms to empower both individuals and companies to be able to respond to burnout proactively as opposed to reactively. We believe that this will allow us to save time, energy, resources, and ultimately improve quality of life in the workplace.
So everybody talks about, the opposite mental wellness. How are you bringing the science and bringing that into an app with an algorithm and artificial intelligence?
So it's looking at how complex systems work. So all the algorithms we're developing right now is based on dynamical systems theory. So it's trying to look at all the different kinds of data points and put them together in a theory-based way. Whereas most AI right now is just let's just throw a whole bunch of data at the problem until the solution arrives. So we're trying to be a little more strategic that way.
And how close are you guys to bringing this to market? I know you've done some beta testing. When do you think you'll be able to launch it?
So we've got right now the MVP of the app out, so people can go out and check that out. We're constantly trying to update the user experience so it's more enjoyable to use. And then I expect we'll have the burnout prediction algorithms close towards launch by summer. Nice. Just because we need to have the data in order to build that.
And where can they go to get it? How do they find your app?
So you can check out the app at 8bitcortex.app, super intuitive. Our website's just 8bitcortex.com for a little bit of broader information. And our social media is also fairly easy to follow. And yeah, we've got lots of different initiatives for people to kind of get on board with, different events and surveys and stuff. Oh, and will they'll be able to give you feedback for that onto your website and different things when you're looking for, anybody goes to 8-Bit Cortex, and that's the number 8 and Bit Cortex. So check that out and any feedback that you have, and anything that we're doing in the mental wellness, especially when we're going to use some algorithms and AI, I think is going to be very, very important, because I'm sure you're going to probably start to see some, what's the word I'm looking for? Traction.
Traction, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Try to, again, empower individual people, and then from there, just kind of let the community start kind of building with it. And then once you got the critical mass, we can start using this to help businesses.
No, I think that's great. And, thank you for coming on here today and sharing your story. It's good that you walked by. This is kind of just to come and have everybody share it and why they're here and tell their story right here and how they're contributing to make our world a better place and change the narrative. So thanks for stopping by.
No, my pleasure. And it's empowering to see all the individuals here collectively trying to make mental health less of a problem, more of a solution.
I could not agree more. So thank you again. Hey, Tara, I have to steal you, and then Crystal, I'm going to steal you. I'm going to steal you after too, so don't run away too far. Come sit down. Yes. Yeah, this is kind of a, an intuitive, just whoever's walking by kind of have a chat. So Tara's obviously a big mental wellness advocate. She was working in the mental wellness in the corporate world, and she decided to go out on her own. So why don't you kind of share your story on why you decided to go out on your own and how mental wellness has affected you?
Sure, thanks. It's so great to be here. It's so nice to see you in person.
I know, finally.
How tall you were.
Yes,
I know,
you
right
too.
here. We've been like talking on video. So I worked in the corporate mental health and wellness space for a long time and felt very, very blessed. I worked at ATB Financial, one of the leaders in workplace mental health. And, there just kind of got to a point where I felt like I'd love to help more than one company.
Yeah.
And since then, I've been out on my own and working with companies across Canada, helping them with workplace mental health awareness, a lot of training, and introducing suicide prevention in the workplace. So not a lot of people are as excited as me to talk about suicide. I know that's odd, but I love it.
But it's such an important discussion, and that's kind of what got myself involved, 5 years ago. Having a couple friends take their own lives, and I didn't understand it. I don't know why, and it was a big part of my drive and how I got into Krista and how I got involved. So, kind of how do you talk about that with people? How do you bring it up? How do you make it a normal conversation with people?
Wow, easy question.
Yeah, easy. Softballs.
So, some of the things I like to say is if we can try to keep suicide prevention simple, but never ever easy. And there's so many different levels of roles, and there's so many levels of training that if we go all the way back to like general population, really what we need is a little bit of language, a little bit of courage, a little bit of awareness, right? So folks, I think they think about this topic and they go deep and they go into like intervention, safety planning, and all these fantastic things. But if you think about the general population, your job is to notice, to ask, and then give somebody with thoughts of suicide to a person with more training. So what I try to really do is make it less scary, even though it's always scary. It's always scary, but a little bit less scary, right? And I know it's odd. Look how happy I am talking about this.
Well, when you speak of looking, just look out here. There's probably, it doesn't start till 10, and there's probably 40, 50 people here already. And as we've made it, as we've been able to come out of COVID here and meet people and have these gatherings, yes, we'll still have to wear our masks, but it's nice to see people. And I think that's going to be a big part of people's recovery, because we don't know how COVID is going to affect us.
Well, it'll be interesting today and every day in every group. There's always a wealth of lived experience in every room, and that's how I approach any conversation one-on-one or in a group. There's so much lived experience, but in this room, particular today, there will be even more lived experience. So, that's a blessing, but we also need to be gentle. We really need to be gentle today with this audience, with this community, because people here with a passion for mental health, mental illness, suicide prevention, what have you, typically will come with even more than the average lived experience. So that's really been on my mind the last few days before I got here this morning.
I know we're really excited about hearing what you have to say for about suicide and all the work you do, and it's. I'm just honored to have gotten to know you. It's been a blessing, and I'm so excited to hear what you're going to say. So thank you for stopping by and saying hi, and I know we'll have lots of video out there today when people get on stage. So
do you want me to grab someone else?
Yeah, well, I'll grab Krista. She has to carry her purse. It doesn't look like a purse. I think it's actually a luggage. I don't know. I thought my wife had a big purse until I saw yours. So welcome, Crystal. We were lucky enough to kind of have a meeting last week, and now here we are a week later talking again. So what I want to kind of have you talk about is your journey into the mental wellness side of things, and talk a little bit about what you're gonna say today.
Yeah, so my journey into this was actually, I was diagnosed with MS at an early age, and I was inspired to fix some of the gaps that I saw in the neuroscience and research field. So I started a charity to fund research in that area, and it was for all neurological disorders, including MS and other brain aging disorders or progressive degenerative disorders, and then as well as mental health disorders would fall within that category of neuroscience. So because of that, we got to learn a lot about top trends in neuroscience for mental health, which is what I'll be speaking to. And then when I wear my within your labs, I'm also going to talk about what I'm seeing in the trends for startups and companies in mental health.
And I think that's really cool. I mean, obviously we have Ty, and I know you know Ty, and he's part of Thin Air Labs and
Branch Out.
and Branch Out. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about that tech and what you're seeing come through the ecosystem in Alberta here. What are some of the maybe neat companies or neat advancements that you're seeing?
Trends in neuroscience is neuromodulation. So looking at either stimulation to basically change the frequencies in your brain. In major depressive disorder, for example, they would decrease they would increase the lowered activity in the brain, giving people with major depressive disorder a chance to then start their therapies, because you get to that stage where you don't have the energy or motivation to even get started, or even look at, let's say, dietary interventions or anything like that. So this kind of helps give you that ability to get to the next step. So there's a company called Aura in Alberta.
I like that company,
Yeah.
Claire Air, right?
Everyone kind of knows that it's a small world in the startup world, and I mean, it also showcases that although it's a small world, there's also so many people at the same time that are addressing this problem. So anyone who's suffering from mental health disorders can know that they've got an army of support behind them from all the different angles, whether it's neuroscience, entrepreneurship, community initiatives like this, nonprofit, for-profit organizations in the health system.
No, that's awesome, and I love what Thin Air is doing, and not only I love that so much and what you guys are doing. And so why don't you talk a little bit about the fund you're creating and how hopefully that what you're doing is going to inspire and maybe give money to some of these companies that are going to change the world.
Yeah, so we are raising a $100 million fund, and this is to fund research at the earliest stages of these companies. We're talking neuroscience or science or even other sectors of research that's otherwise kind of stuck in the lab. It gives them a chance to then form a company and actually have funding in this province to be able to take it to that next level at a large scale. So over half of our portfolio companies in the health space, and of course because mental health is trending, it's a big problem. Many people are personally motivated to find solutions in this area. We're starting to see startups. In fact, I was just catching up with a founder from Sherwood Park, Alberta, named Sophie Gray, who started a company called Dive Through. Yeah, exactly. So really inspiring to hear that she's got over 4,500 users on her platform now, and then she's starting to turn them into paying customers because the customers see the value and understand how important it is, and they do it in such a nice way. And their kind of niche market is 18 to 32-year-olds, and they also work on education. So really making sure that we can kind of front load the work on mental health as opposed to get to it once you have a disorder or a mental health challenge. Hopefully this can help build that resilience for that population.
No, absolutely, and I love what you can go to divethrough.com. THRU is I love what she's doing. Her story is inspirational too on how she just quit a really good and just said I can't deal with this anymore. I mean, her story is great. But thank you again, Crystal, for coming on, and I'd like to thank everybody for watching this. And it's getting kind of loud, and we're starting to fill up here, so I think we're going to bring this to a close. So I hope everybody will enjoy some of the stuff that we have going over the next. We'll post all the videos that are coming down here. This is the last Telling It Like It Is for the year. So in January, we're going to kick off with Brian Slocum, Tim Lynn, and Denise Barrell, and we're going to talk about startups. But again, please stay safe over the holidays. If you need the help, reach out. There's lots of us that we're all there. We'll go for a coffee with you. You're not alone. Just it's okay not to be okay, just like the shirt says. So thanks everybody, and